Freeholders is hereby called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Freeholder Cooper. Here. Freeholder Graham. Here. Freeholder Johnson.
Here.
Freeholder Luciano.
Here.
Freeholder Mercado. Absent. Freeholder Pomares. Absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson. Absent. Freeholder Siebel. Here. Freeholder President Gill.
Here. Council, we please stand for a salute to the flag. I'll ask Freeholder Siebel, please lead us in the salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask you to please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. I have before me certification from the clerk that this meeting is in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act. Madam Clerk, are there any transcripts to be approved?
Mr. President, there are none.
Okay, Madam Clerk, are there any topics of discussion?
Mr. President, there are two. The Essex County coronavirus contingency plan and two, update of the Essex County Civilian Task Force Committee.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Good evening, Mr. President. Maya Lordo, the county health officer, is here to address item number 1, and County Counsel Gassion is here to address item number 2.
Thank you.
Good evening, Freeholders. Maya Lordo, health officer. I am here to present to you the current status of the coronavirus outbreak. As of this afternoon, the World Health Organization has declared the coronavirus a pandemic, meaning that it is now spread worldwide. The current deaths and around the world have been numerous. The total cases here in New Jersey are 23 that were positive and 1 death. Within Essex County, we have a total of 17 that have been tested, 6 are negative, and 11 are pending, which means there are no positive cases in Essex County as of right now. Worldwide, people are exercising social distancing, and there's testing going on, and testing has been expanded. That has been the big question, so I will explain to you the testing process as it relates to New Jersey. If a patient arrives at a facility or a medical care facility, they are then looked at by the medical professional. At that point, it is decided whether they will be tested based on criteria that is from the CDC. If they are to be tested, a form is filled out, then sent over to our state health department. The state health department is then taken a look at that form, and they will decide whether that individual is going to be tested at our state laboratory. If they are not tested and made criteria-wise to be tested at that state laboratory, the medical facility has the right to go ahead and do commercial testing within Quest and LabCorp. Currently, there are other options being explored. If the lab that from the state tests, we are able to see whether whether it is pending, whether it is negative, or it comes back positive. If it is tested in commercial labs, we do not have that ability, so the only time that we will hear from that commercial lab is if it is positive. Currently, the process is being worked out between state, local, and county health departments. It's a work in progress, and most cases are done by case. As this continues, we will have to watch it. The situation is very, very fluid, and here from the health department as well as Essex County, we've been working with various agencies. I've been working with the corrections facility, with the hospital centers, and as well as every facility here within the county. We've come up with sanitizing plans, disinfecting. We've come up with worst case scenario plans and how to handle situations as they come to us. Are there any questions for me?
Freeholders, questions? How does the information flow work between the state, county, and then the general public regarding cases that are publicly reported So, for example, it was reported earlier this week that there was and this was in a press report, that there was a teacher in the Montclair Public Schools who was sent to be tested. And then when, and I don't know, maybe I missed a story, but was the person tested? When did the results come? How are the results notified? Were we notified? And how does that information flow work?
So that is one of the issues that we're currently dealing with. The way that the public health system has been set up from the state is that the local health departments are notified by the medical facility that this individual goes to. So what happens is, let's say myself, would go to a facility saying I'm sick. I would give criteria and say I live in Montclair, for example. But that medical facility is to go ahead and notify the local health department, which means wherever that person lives. So even if I went to Springfield, New Jersey, but I live in Montclair, the Springfield doctor has to notify the Montclair Health Department. Right. The Montclair Health Department will be then the disease investigation hub for that particular individual.
So in this instance, as it was reported, it didn't report whether they lived in Montclair or not. It reported that they worked in the Montclair public schools. So did we get the results of that test?
I cannot answer that. That would have to go through the local health departments and confirm that, but then also to know where that individual had lived. So wherever that teacher resides is where you would find those results.
So just as a general matter though, if someone comes in and they work in another community in a public, is there a requirement then for that community to be notified? So what I'm hearing you say is based on where you live, but if a person shows up, asked to be tested, they determine that they do need the test, then how do they determine where that person, if that person works in a public, so, because probably in most of these school districts, let's say X percentage of these staff and personnel don't live in the communities that they work in. So how does that information get back to those public entities?
So that would be the job of that particular health department when they do their disease investigation to contact that district.
No, I'm asking a different question. That person shows up. Does that person have to disclose that they work? How would the local Montclair Health Department know that a teacher who I'm just using Montclair as an example, so let's just use this fact pattern, that a individual who lives in Rawway went to a facility in Union County to be tested, but they happen to work in a community in Essex.
President, I'm glad you brought that up because I want everyone to kind of understand how these cases take so long to investigate. So there is a disease investigation form. One of those questions are, where are you employed? If it is, and that employer is contacted by the disease investigator at that local health department. Right. But this does show how when these cases are coming into our local health departments, how long and it would take us to go ahead and investigate each one of those cases. It takes a large amount of effort and we want to be diligent with each one, so.
Can you be tested, can a test come back negative, but still be a set of time for symptoms to appear? Because that's what I read today.
No, you're right. So basically, if you come back negative, but then the test would, and then later on you would develop the disease. The answer to that question is we do not know. The disease is new. We do not know the answer to that. That also goes back to that the concept of community spread. Right. At first, we thought that it was just from travel, and then it started doing within the community and spreading, but then there was also the concept of asymptomatic spread, which means individuals who do not show any symptoms but yet can still shed the virus. That also goes along with some individuals show very mild symptoms, which could maybe be mistaken maybe for an allergy or something of that nature, and again infect somebody who's at a higher risk or has some sort of underlying medical condition, then that person would be kind of the vector for that disease at that point.
We have multiple public events that are scheduled, particularly around, and particularly in Essex, around St. Patrick's Day just this week, and we have two communities that have large-scale parades, is the county giving any, what is the advice that the county is giving to municipalities that are hosting these events?
I think as the situation progresses, we have to take each event and look at it individually. We also have to look at the municipality, the county in which it's in, and seeing what the numbers are looking like. Worldwide, we're getting the recommendation of social distancing. So social distancing is 6 feet from anyone else. Handshaking is kind of in an awkward situation for everyone. And so the answer to that question is it has to be determined by the situation, the municipality at that particular time.
Okay, so there's no, I mean, I know it's changing quickly, and I appreciate
No.
you taking the time to be here tonight. So there's no guidance from the state or the county, because as to whether these events should move forward or not, their individual basis. Because I'm sure, like my colleagues, I'm getting a lot of questions from local elected officials about should we move forward. They're asking the event organizers. The event organizers are looking for guidance from their elected officials. So we're kind of like back and forth here.
So the
and
answer
I know there's no
that
easy answer, but I just wanted to be clear about the guidance that we're giving that's coming from the feds and the state.
the answer that I just gave you were actually the talking points that were just sent to us from the state.
Okay.
So when it comes to, it also depends on the population and that is attending the event. If it is a population that is at risk, we need to weigh, is it really worth putting those individuals at risk? So if it's an elderly population, we really, really, really need to take a look at, is the event worth postponing? I think using the word canceling sometimes doesn't need to be done. We can postpone some events and give our community the chance to say, okay, we're not canceling it, we're gonna postpone it.
Are there any universities in Essex County which have suspended or moved classes to online?
Rutgers, I believe, is starting Friday.
Montclair started today.
Just please, for the, so, thank you. So if you could provide that information to the clerk, for the board, I think it would just be helpful for us to have running lists of institutions that are taking actions like that, so we know whether Rutgers, Montclair State, Seton Hall, and NJIT, all what they're doing to the extent that we can and have access to that information. Because my follow-up question on that was, Rutgers announced that they're canceling or postponing all third-party events and athletic events. Does that also apply to the Newark campus, that events that are being held and the Newark sporting events that are held on the Newark campus?
Yes.
So that's for the entire system.
Yes.
Any additional?
Just
Real Luciano?
Just a point of privilege, I want to make a couple comments because some of the members of the public and on TV might wonder why we're not asking more questions. All the freeholders have been invited to participate in several conference calls over the last week, one by the state, one by the federal government, one about the ICE and our jail system and how we're going to handle it, one about our schools and how our school district is going to have independent rule as of tomorrow. Any district can close and they won't be penalized. And the minimum requirement of 180 days for students is out the window for this year. So if a school district closes for 2 weeks, the children will not be held to the 180 days. So I just wanted to put that on record so we all kind of get a snapshot of, and I think we understand that by the hour this is changing. So probably by the end of the week or early next week, we'll have a lot more information.
Please.
Mr. President, if I may, Courtney Gassione, Essex County Council, just to follow up on some of the points that Maya has made. She's been doing a tremendous job over the last few weeks, staying on top of this evolving situation as it relates to the county specifically and our 3,500 county employees. The administration's been working diligently with Maya as well as the state health officials. We've issued some protocols over the last several days. One involves international travel and notifications required by our employees if they are going to be traveling outside the continental United States. We've issued some protocols to the union representatives earlier this evening, and additional information is going to be going to division and department directors in the morning, as well as to individual employees, advising them as to the protocols that the county has put in place as it relates to employment, time off from work, the social distancing that Maya has mentioned, safe protocols as far as sanitizing, the efforts the county is taking through all of the county facilities for sanitizing all of our buildings and facilities. And we have been trying to remain in constant communication with our staff as well as our employees to make sure that everybody is up to speed on all of these evolving facts and pieces of information. So we're staying on top of it the best that we can, but you know, there, as Maya indicated, there's a lot of moving parts.
Thank you.
Would you like me to move to the Civilian Task Force?
Yes.
Okay, Courtney Gassion, Essex County Council. Mr. President, as I believe you're aware, last Monday, the administration conducted interviews of 14 individuals who had submitted applications for the 9 available spots on the Civilian Task Force. I believe that you were present for some of those interviews, as was Freeholder Mikado and the clerk of the board. At the conclusion of those interviews, there was, I believe, discussions with regard to candidates that would move forward in the process. At that point, back to our earlier discussion, the coronavirus did ramp up and did require the attention of several of the administrative staff. So that was not put on the back burner, but it certainly was not at the forefront of the administration's focus at that moment. We do plan on finalizing those selections in the next couple of weeks. As you know, pursuant to the ordinance, we have until June to fully staff the Civilian Task Force. The bylaws that have been drafted for the Freeholders review and comment were circulated earlier today. And once we have your comments back, they will be placed in finalized. They will be placed in a format.
I'm sorry, those were sent to the clerk?
Yes.
I didn't see it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll work that out. Okay.
And I believe it went to your office as well, Mr.
Okay.
President.
Oh, I just got it at 6.
Okay.
It did not come from me. It came from Judge Linares'
Okay.
offices. So, but I believe he sent it. He did send it to your
Thank
offices.
you.
Okay.
Just make sure it gets to the clerk.
No problem. We haven't. Our goal is to, by the end of March, have those finalized as well. So
Okay.
that's where we are currently.
So just in terms of, I appreciate the speed, because for me, I'd like to get it done as fast as possible. So the recommendations based on those who have applied, the final list would be brought to the board hopefully by, are we targeting a meeting for that?
We haven't discussed an actual meeting. I do think it depends on where we end up with COVID-19 and how much attention that's taking. But our goal was to get it finalized by June, as you know, is the date. We will certainly have it to you way before then.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Additional questions, comments, Freeholders? Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move to the public comment session. Tonight's meeting is a combined conference board meeting. We'll vote on every item on the agenda. So if there's any member of the public who would like to comment on agenda items only, please come to the microphone, state your name and affiliation for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Again, there will be time later in the evening for public comment on any other items, so I ask you to please limit your comments at this time to agenda items only.
Judy Rosenthal, Milburn, New Jersey. I'm commenting on a number of agenda items that have to do with the budget and how that relates to the Turtleback Zoo. As this body is well aware by now, the environmental committees of Milburn, West Orange, Maplewood, and South Orange have all condemned the proposed amphitheater at the Turtleback Zoo. There was a public rally 2 weeks ago attended by over 350 people, all opposing the rally and organized by students. The students, to a person, are against this. And given that the proposed purported purpose of the amphitheater is to educate students, I think their voices speak above all others. There's also been a public forum, and there at least 50 people spoke out against this. The only people to speak out in favor of it are the docents. There are better uses for $8 million. This county is facing a crisis with the coronavirus. Newark has got a severe water problem. There's lead in the pipes. Given these two crises that are facing the citizens of Essex County, do you really think you should be building an amphitheater to parade animals in front of 500 kids at a pop? Or do you think that the residents of Newark deserve clean water and that the residents of this county deserve more testing kits for the coronavirus? I want to ask every one of you, is there one Mitt Romney among you who will stand up to Joe DiVincenzo and say the amphitheater has got to stop? Or am I looking at a Susan Collins and a Devin Nunes and a Lindsey Graham? Someone needs to grow a spine.
Good evening. My name is Virginia Lamb. I'm from Maplewood, and I'm also with the Coalition to Save the South Mountain Reservation. And I'm here to talk about Ordinance 0-2020-00006, which establishes rules and regulations for the safety, protection, and conduct of persons using Essex County parks, reservations, recreation facilities, and other open space property. And I quote in item 7422, County Park Property and Natural Resources, "No person shall damage, cut, carve, transplant, or remove any tree or plant, or injure the bark, or pick a flower or seeds of any tree or plant. Nor shall any person attach any rope, wire, or other contrivance to any tree or plant. No person shall dig in or otherwise disturb grass or other vegetation, or in any other way injure or impair the natural beauty or usefulness of any area." And yet, you plan to accept bids on Friday that will result in the clear cutting of over 1.5 acres of mature forest and sensitive wetlands in the South Mountain Reservation to build an amphitheater. The public continues to oppose the project with petitions, resolutions, phone calls, emails, even a rally that drew over 300 protesters, but you haven't responded. Because of your non-response, the coalition has enlisted the services of professionals, including lawyers, environmental specialists, engineers, architects, policy officials, and regulators, all volunteers, to review the project. And regarding your construction bid packet, your engineer, French and Perillo, has made, and I quote, "a series of technical errors and omissions that are being inventoried and cataloged." In fact, the site is so inaccurately characterized that plans don't even show the existence of the reservoir. You're all familiar with the reservoir. Not in the drawings for architecture, HVAC, plumbing, heating, sound system, none of it. None of it shows the reservoir. Apparently, none of the necessary permits have been applied for. Whether these errors were made intentionally or not remains to be seen. But because of your refusal to listen or respond, the coalition has been forced to use all resources at our disposal to stop the continued destruction of the reservation. Please don't award this bid. The zoo is big enough, and we need resources for other things in our county. Thank you.
Good evening, Freeholders. Whitney Strube, Newark. I'm a member of North Jersey Democratic Socialists of America, and I'm here to speak to agenda item I-5 regarding the county budget. I noticed in looking at the budget, that is resolution R 2020-00152, in looking at the budget, my understanding is you will be taking several million more dollars from ICE this coming year. The entry on the budget is federal inmate housing. I know that includes some money coming in from the federal marshals, but that is mostly ICE detainees. It was $43 million last year. It's projected at $47 million this year. That's after 2 years of concerted public opposition to your profiteering off of ICE. your response to that is to take more money from ICE. And so I want to object to that yet again, which I do think reflects an Essex County consensus. You know, we do not want our county funded through the suffering of immigrants, as we have said many, many times. And I want to link that to the threat of the coronavirus that's hanging over all of us right now. The executive director of the Federal Defenders of New York this week said about our entire carceral system in the United States, it is, quote, a nightmare waiting to happen when the coronavirus hits. I'm teaching in Northern State Prison this semester, and I have a lot of affection and respect for my students. My classes are now canceled there, and I'm terrified as to what's going to happen to them if coronavirus hits the prison, which is essentially an unsafe petri dish for the transmission of these kind of things. And we know the county jail is too, and we know this because we've seen report after report of the unsanitary conditions there, and none of us believe that it's improved. We just don't believe. You know, you've been discredited in repeatedly claiming things are great there when reports show that they're not. And so what I want to know is, are you willing to tell ICE to just release people? People are not held there on criminal charges. As we know, this is civil detention. And it's quite plausible that people may die from coronavirus in ICE custody there. You know, you have an opportunity to speak out against this, to publicly demand that ICE release people. I think ICE should release everybody. I do not support any immigrant detention. At the very least, if you operate within some kind of realpolitik and make minimal demands even, it would still be better than the silence that you're currently engaged in. You know, you can make politically safe demands in regard to this. People will support this. We don't want people dying while you cash in on them being held by ICE. So please, you know, show again, like my colleague who just said, show some backbone here. We need this right now. People literally may die. And so I also want to know, yeah, I believe the representative from the health department mentioned the contingency plan involving the corrections center. I would be interested in what actions you are actually taking. And so as an on-the-record comment, I would like to know, what is the contingency plan for inmates of the jail and ICE detainees pertaining to coronavirus? So that's it. End the ICE contract. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Katie Singer, Milburn, New Jersey, teach at Rutgers Newark. I'm here speaking on item I-5, the resolution of the county budget. And like my brothers and sisters before me, this is clearly a contested discussion at this point. And now groups are collaborating. They're understanding that their missions are intersecting. There are problems with how the money is spent, and we have problems with how the money is made. We have problems with this budget, and we are the people for whom you work, supposedly. So the anti-zoo expansion, ruining the reservation, this coalition is powerful. They had these rallies, they are articulate, they are organized, and we are joining with them as anti-ICE contract protesters. This contract is making money for a thing that your people don't want in the first place. So this is just so confusing to so many of us. The former, the zoo expansion coalition, doesn't want the money to spend to devastate the reservation, to devastate the land. If we all recall, at one moment that place looked so very different, and now it's like a mini Disney World. And the latter, that'd be me and my colleagues, don't want the county to have money spent on the backs of detainees. You guys are getting more and more on the wrong side of history, on the wrong side of morality. It's getting worse and worse, and I don't know if you're just holding out at this moment to stay right. I mean, this civilian review board, what are we calling it these days? I really would like to hear, now we're talking about the coronavirus interfering with the creation of this board. Get on friggin' Skype and make a board, for God's sake. I mean, how hard is this? We're teaching classes online. So I don't like these excuses. ICE most recently, its latest gimmick is using subpoenas, quote unquote, in sanctuary cities to force law enforcement to
30
give up
seconds.
information on folks that they are detaining. These subpoenas are not even actual subpoenas. They are not signed by judges. That's not a subpoena, but they're calling it that. The federal government is bullying sanctuary cities, and you guys are sitting silent. Stop it. Stand up. Do something before we all win, and you guys look like the complicit people that you look like
Time's
right
up.
now.
Good evening. My name is Jay Arena. I'm with the Jobs and Equal Rights for All campaign, and I want to speak to items F1 on the coronavirus and I-5 on the budget. Now, our organization and movement have consistently demanded an end to the blood money contract that the county has with ICE, a big part of your budget, which we see as an attack on the rights of all. Well, excuse me, the attack on the rights of immigrants, holding people without criminal charge or trial is an attack on the rights of all. We've consistently argued that. And that is, that connection between the rights of the detainees, the well-being of the detainees, and the rest of us is no clearer than with the crisis that we face with the coronavirus, which is a threat to humanity. We know that prisons are breeding grounds for viruses. This has led in Iran, which is facing sanctions, to release some 70,000 prisoners. Now, the virus is spread especially rapidly in jails under unsanitary conditions. And as my brother Witt-Strube mentioned, we have over a decade of reports documenting the deplorable conditions at the ICE concentration camp and jail, most recently by the Department of Homeland Security themselves. And we all know this phony oversight board has not changed any of those conditions. And so the Jobs and Equal Rights for All campaign is issuing a demand to the county executive, Mr. DiVincenzo, the Freeholders, and we're going to be asking other organizations to sign on, that the county use its public health emergencies powers, which date back to the 19th century, to immediately parole all the detainees in order to protect the public health of the residents of Essex County, and by extension, as we know, we're all connected to the rest of the state, country, and the world. So we're issuing that call, that demand, that you use the powers that you have at your disposal. And if you call the state around the coronavirus...
30 seconds.
Yeah, I get that. The coronavirus hotline, they direct you to the county. It has fallen in the lap, and I know there's an attempt to devolve it even further to the municipalities, but we know here, and we know Mr. DiVincenzo was a very powerful man. The buck stops with you, and so we're calling on you, right, to use your authority in the name of protecting the public health. This has been done in the past, to release the detainees, to parole the detainees. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Yael Weber. I'm an Essex County resident. I would like to speak also on I-5, the county budget. I understand that this year's budget includes an increase in the amount of money we're supposed to be profiting off of unconstitutionally detaining immigrants on civil charges for no reason other than to make a lot of money for the county. I would like to know where that increase comes from, how much of it is from ICE detainees. I would like to know where that money is going. I think in the past we've been told repeatedly that there's this kind of general fund where all money disappears into and nobody knows where it comes from and nobody knows where it goes. I can't imagine that that's an effective or transparent way to run a county. So I would like to know where that money is going, and then I would be very happy to sit down and meet with any of the freeholders and discuss which of those items are more important than the lives and freedom of our immigrant brothers and sisters detained in Essex County. This is this is really an abomination. This is a moral crisis that's been said over and over. I don't have a different way to say that, and the contract. Thank you.
Hi. Sorry. Hi, my name is Christopher Canick. I'm with the Newark Teachers Union, and I am a resident in Bloomfield, New Jersey. I'm here today to address item I-5 on the agenda. The Newark Teachers Union is extremely concerned about the ICE detention center in Newark, New Jersey. We have recently passed a resolution against ICE action in Newark Public Schools and the surrounding community. That resolution was adopted by the Newark Teachers Union Executive Board on January 21st, 2020. The full text of the resolution reads, the Newark Teachers Union, Local 481, recognizing the necessity for social justice, community engagement, and political activism in the success of Newark Public Schools, students, and families, acknowledging racial diversity and the need for increased cultural competency as priority interests within the Newark Public Schools and the Newark Teachers Union, acknowledging the Newark Public Schools' mission of ensuring students develop social skills necessary to be productive, civic-minded individuals, acknowledging the Newark Public Schools' commitment to working closely with parents and community stakeholders, that's all of you, to create a culture of inclusiveness and engagement, acknowledging the role of teachers in examining, demonstrating, and discussing the concepts of racial justice, institutional racism, and equal justice under the law in the classroom, lessons, and other academic spaces, acknowledging the citywide collaboration of the Mayor's Office, the Newark City Council, and countless advocacy groups in the creation of Newark Sanctuary City protocols and protections. Whereas the Newark Teachers Union is an organization of education professionals founded on the principles of social justice and due process, be it resolved, the Newark Teachers Union will continue to support the implementation of curricular materials that focus on dismantling impositional structures created to disenfranchise oppressed groups. Be it further resolved, the Newark Teachers Union promotes the education of students and parents on the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, as it affords a potential measure of protection against even lawful agencies that would seek to violate due process and sow distrust in a diverse community. Be it finally resolved, the Newark Teachers Union calls on the Essex County Board of Chosen Freeholders to terminate the contract between Essex County and the Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE agency to hold immigrant detainees at the Essex County Correctional Facility in Newark. End the concentration camp. Close it down. Use your authority. Use your conscience. Use your will. Be people above all else. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that there's no one else wishing to speak at this time. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for introduction and first reading?
Mr. President, we have none.
Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions for listing purposes only?
Yes, Mr. President, there are 5. Ordinance O-2020-0007, Ordinance O-2020-0008, Ordinance O-2020-009, Ordinance number R-2020-00515, 151, Ordinance R-2020-00152.
Mr. President, if I could just cut in, those last 2 resolutions, they're treated like ordinances, but they're actually resolutions because they're budget items.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, you can list ordinance number O-2020-00007, 00008, and 00009, and resolution number R 2020-00151, and resolution R 2020-00151 for our public hearing at our March 25th meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances or resolutions on second reading and public hearing tonight?
Mr. President, there are 2. 1, public hearing for Green Acres Multi-Park Grant Award Amendment, and 2, ordinance number O-2020-00152, -0006, an ordinance establishing the rules and regulations for the safety and protection and conduct of persons using Essex County parks, reservations, recreational facilities, and other open space property.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please have the administration explain the public hearing on the Green Acres Multi-Park Grant Award Amendment.
Mr. President, Deputy Director Hartwick and Joshua's aides are here to address this item.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Kate Hartwig. I'm the Deputy Director of the Essex County Department of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. Thank you, Freeholder President Gill and the Board of Chosen Freeholders for hosting this public hearing tonight. This public hearing has been advertised in the Star Ledger on February 25th, 2020. The reason for this hearing is so the County of Essex can amend its 2019 New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection Agency's Green Acres Grant. The county has been awarded a $1.5 million Green Acres multi-park grant for improvements to Brookdale Park. The county is requesting that Green Acres amend the county's 2009 multi-park application to now also include improvements to Hendricks Field Golf Course in Belleville, New Jersey. This will give the county the flexibility to use the Green Acres awarded funds at both Brookdale Park and the Hendricks Field Golf Course. We have an opportunity at Hendricks Golf Course to restore and transform a historically significant course into one of the best public layouts in the country. Improvements to the playing facility and grounds at Hendricks Field Golf Course will facilitate a more enjoyable outdoor recreation experience for golfers and create new educational opportunities for youth. The scope of work includes treatments to the golf course layout and overall improvements to make the facility more accessible and accommodating to the needs of public golfers. Proposed improvements to the golf course playing surface include rebuilding of holes, greens, tees, and fairways, as well as improvements to existing cart paths. One of the most exciting parts of this project is the creation of a 3,000 square foot first tee building and short course that will significantly enhance the playing and educational experience for youth golfers in Essex County and serve as the first tee headquarters for Northern New Jersey. For those who aren't familiar, First Tee is a youth development organization which impacts the lives of young people by providing educational programs through golf with a focus on serving minority and underserved youth. The program is currently based in Weequahic Park and serves 700 youth annually, with more than 85% of the students from a minority background. It's our hope that with the new program in Hendricks, we'll be just as successful. Once the new First Tee building is completed, every young person in the city of Newark will be within 3 miles of a First Tee site, either in Weequahic or in Hendricks. Other proposed improvements for the Hendricks project include entrance improvements, tree removal and trimming, landscape improvements, drainage improvements, parking lot improvements, the addition of a cold storage building, benches and trash receptacles, women's tees, bunkers, tee boxes, public putting greens, and a driving practice area. The Hendricks Field Golf Course measures over 161 acres and is one of 3 public golf facilities in the county. It offers residents of Essex County and surrounding communities affordable and accessible golf. Opened in 1929, prior renovations have included the reconstruction of tees and bunkers, as well as extensive upgrades in drainage that have significantly improved playing conditions over the years. The last renovation to the golf course was completed in 2009. These additional upgrades will ensure the course continues to meet the recreation needs of the golfing public for years to come. The golf director, Tim Christ, is on his way in this evening, and I'm happy to take questions from the freeholders or additional comments.
Okay, I hereby declare that the public hearing on the Green Acres Multi-Park Grant Award Amendment open. Before we do that, freeholders, were there any additional questions? Do we take questions first from the board, or do we go to the public?
We can take questions from the board and then open it to the public.
Any questions from the board? Freeholder Seabold.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The First Tee at Hendricks Field will not affect the First Tee at Weequahic Park.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
I'm sorry. The First Tee at Hendricks Field will not interfere with the First Tee at Weequahic Park.
That
Is
is
that correct?
that
It
is
will stay
correct.
Just as it is.
The First Tee program at Hendricks would be an additional program. The We Quick program will continue.
Thank you.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes, as a golfer myself, I think those improvements to Hendricks is one of the best things that's happening in the last couple of years, because Hendricks was one of the courses that a lot of people shy away from, and they go to either Weequay or Burn because of the conditions there. And I'm glad that you're going to work on the drainage and put some new holes there, and I hope you do the holes like you did at Brendan Burn, at Francis Burn, I'm sorry.
Freeholders, additional questions or comments? Okay, I hereby declare that the public hearing on Green Acres Multi-Park Grant Award Amendment open. If there's any member of the public who would like to comment for or against the grant award amendment, please come to the microphone, state your name and affiliation for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that there's no one wishing to speak at this time. Let's move, Madam Clerk, to ordinance O 2020-0006 and read it into the record at a later time. I hereby declare that the public hearing on ordinance O 2020-0006 is open. If there's any member of the public who would like to comment for or against the ordinance, please come to the microphone and state your name and affiliation. For the record, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, Mr. McInerney, do you have any questions or comments?
I have no questions, Mr. President.
Mr. Parlavecchio, do you have any questions or comments?
No, just to remind the board that this was basically updating and existing rules and regulations to just bring them up to speed with the actual functionality of the parks and the areas surrounding them.
Okay, Freeholders, do you have any questions or comments? Okay, Freeholders, do I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing? Moved by Freeholder Siebold, second by Vice President Richardson. Do I have the same mover and second?
Yes.
Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebold.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's move to Resolution 1, which is with the Office of the Administrator in Risk Management. Please read it into the record at a later time. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Director Walker, Tim Walker is here to address this item.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We seek the freeholders' approval to award a contract to Inservco Insurance Professionals to provide third-party administration services for the county's liability program. The Office of County Administrator, through the Office of Purchasing, advertised via the request for proposal for this service back on January the 14th of this year. We had 5 responses to our RFP, and it was reviewed by a selection committee comprised of the Offices of Risk Management and County Council. Of those 5, the highest scoring vendor as well as the lowest bidding vendor was Inservco. As such, we seek to award their contract. This evening, Amy Zeider is here from Inservco, if there were any questions.
Okay, Mr. Parlavecchio.
Mr. Walker, can you just briefly explain what third-party administrative services are for the county?
Sure. The county has a large self-insured retention for a liability program, $500,000 per claim. They are the vendor who administers the claims. So they investigate claims, they issue checks, they do surveillance, whatever we need them to do.
Okay. And that's presumably, those are services that would otherwise have to be handled in-house. That would be, require
yeah, we would need a
staff.
staff that would require the county to spend significantly higher funds than the services they provide.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. McInerney.
Is that $500,000 deductible, so to speak, that's per claim?
Per claim, yes, sir.
So it's not administering $500,000, it's administering the potential for $500,000 on each claim that comes before the county.
Exactly. The county would have to spend the first $500,000 of every claim. A claim could conceivably go to the policy limits, per claim limit of $7 million, aggregate of $14 million.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay. Freeholders, questions or comments? Okay. Do I have a mover?
I'll move it.
Moved by Freeholder Luciano, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sebo.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Palmares, absent Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Move to resolutions number, thank you. Move to resolutions number, so moved. Move to resolutions number 2 through 5, which we can read into the record at a later time.
Mr. President, Director Keisha Burnett and Mr. Fusco are here to address items 2 through 5.
Good evening, Freeholders. I'm Keisha P. Burnett, Acting Division Head for the Division of Family Assistance and Benefits.
Good evening.
I'm here to discuss the RFP that we sent out for catering for our new facility at 320, 321. Only one responded, and I would like your approval to award it to Mansion Caterers.
Okay. Mr. Parlavecchio.
So the question is, the vendor here?
No, they were unable to make it.
Just if I may, Mr. President,
Yep.
just in response to that, because of the virus situation, they're inundated with trying to prepare the facilities that they're involved with for grab and go and things like that, so the vendor wasn't able to make it tonight.
Okay. Mr. McInerney.
No questions.
Freeholders. This is resolution number 2.
That was 2, step to 3.
Why don't we move to number 3?
Okay, I'm going to defer to my project manager, Al Fusco, to discuss the shelving for our new project.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Items 3, 4, and 5 are for the procurement of shelving, which is for housing of our case files, which we're looking to procure in regards to the move of the Division of Family Assistance and Benefits from our current location at 18 Rector Street, as well as one floor here at the Hall of Records, over to our new facility at 320, 321 University Avenue. We have approximately 180,000 cases, and these shelving would enable us to house the cases properly, be able to be visible to our record room staff and workers, and provide a new home for our cases.
Excuse me, Mr. President. Mr. Fusco, I'm sorry, I didn't catch this more quickly. Can you just put your name and affiliation on the record?
Al Fusco, Project Manager for Division of Family Assistance and Benefits.
Thank you very much.
And that testimony applies to resolution 3, 4, and 5, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Parlavecchio, additional questions or comments?
No.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders, questions or comments? Do I have a mover? Move up. Freeholder Johnson.
All 3 of these are for the same thing, right?
Yes.
Why wasn't all of it put into one resolution?
Part of it is because the move is being done in different phases, multiple phases. So we want to get certain, for instance, child support is moving first, and we want to get that shelving in place for them prior to the other programs that exist in DFAB that are going to move over there.
So it's going into different departments that's in the building?
Within the division of, yes.
Okay.
We're taking resolutions 2 through 5. Got a motion from Freeholder Cooper and a second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper. Freeholder Graham. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Palmares, absent Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Sebo.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Moving to resolution 6 and 7. Mr. Jackson.
Director Brown is here to address these items, Mr. President.
Good evening. My name is Maurice Brown. I'm the Division Director for Senior Services. With that, this is on the first resolution is regarding our area aging budget, our area aging services that comes from the federal government and the state government. And what it really is an answer to our 3-year RFP and the agencies that are getting some of the grant funding for the various programs that we have for the senior services. Tonight, I do have some of the agencies that are here, but many of them were concerned about the virus and asked not to be present. But if I may, with your permission, I'd like to at least ask the agencies that I have to stand up and to announce who they represent.
Sure.
John Rishko, CEO of Family Connections.
Francis Busey, JCC Metro West.
Thank you.
Kim Cook, North Bethlehem Medical Center.
Thank you.
Lisa Clark, North Bethlehem Medical Center Home Care Program.
Felipe Chavana, Essex Newark Legal Services. We provide free legal assistance to seniors.
Mike Sanaus, Open Islamic Center. We have our preventive services. Already and home delivery.
Thank you. It's not for the record anyway, so just put this right. So, thank you.
So those agencies are the ones that did come, and we have the various programs that include from transportation, outreach, public awareness, visiting nurse, residential maintenance, congregate nutritional meals, state weekend delivered meals, etc.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Parlavecchio.
No additional questions.
Mr. McInerney.
No questions.
Freeholders. Freeholder Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you provide us with, you gave us a list of the agencies. Can you get a quick blurb what each one does so when people approach us for services, it's easy for us, to refer them?
I have a whole list. I have about 18 agencies, and each of the agencies have various things that they do. I do have that. I thought it should have been sent to you as well. But for example, and I don't have my glasses, but for Krill Care, they have several things that they do, which is Title 3B, which would include transportation, care management, outreach, public awareness, et cetera, information, certified home health aide, visiting nurse, et cetera. You go to Title 3C, which is nutrition support, congregate nutrition meals, nutrition education, nutrition counseling. Title 3C is nutrition support, home delivered nutrition meals, nutrition education, nutrition counseling.
So the document, that you're reading from, can you share that among us? Because again, what's attached to resolution just has the organization's name and the amounts. It doesn't have like what their services are.
Yes, it does. In the decision memo, yes, it does.
So the resolution that I'm looking at, what you're reading from, is not on this particular document.
What I'm reading from was just a matrix that I made up for in response to the freeholders that would make it a little more simpler for reading the funding matrix. But I can easily make copies and give this in.
Or if you leave it with the staff, we can, if you just give us a one. Thank you.
Freeholders? Additional questions or comments? Mr. Parlavecchio?
No questions.
We are
No
taking
questions.
6 and 7. This is 6 and 7. Okay.
7 is respite and that's regarding state funding that we receive for agencies to provide care or sort of a opportunity for caregivers to take a break so that their substitutes can come in and fill in for family members, et cetera, to help them with the seniors that need support.
Thank you. Freeholders, additional questions on number 7. Freeholder Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. Quick question. So the seniors that participate in this program, are there any income requirements?
With rest, yes, there is.
And is the service provided just in-house to where the seniors live, or they are transported to one of the agencies that's listed?
Oh, no, it's where they live.
So where they live?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Freeholders, additional questions on resolution number 7? Mr. Parlavecchio?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
No question.
Freeholders, do I have a mover and a second on resolution? Motion moved by Freeholder Cooper. We'll take 6 and 7 together. Second by Freeholder Johnson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Sewell. Yes. Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares, absent. Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Move to resolutions number 8 through 11, and we're going to take number 52. We'll read it into the record at a later time.
Mr. Zates?
Thank you to all the providers, I'm sorry, for being here tonight. Thank you.
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. Number 11 is a resolution enabling the county to apply for the Green Acres Multi-Park Grant, for which we had the public hearing on previously. Again, that's for the Hendricks Golf Course improvements.
This is number 8, right, Josh?
I'm sorry, yes, number 8. What did I say?
I'm with you.
Sorry, number 8. Jumping ahead. Would you like me just to go through them all? Sure.
Please.
Number 9 is similar in that the Essex County Parks Foundation is going to be also applying for the same project, and number 9 would be a resolution of support for that application. Number 10 is approval with a qualified vendor for a 1-year period for forensic auditing. The way this contract works is the auditor will kind of look through various utility bills or what have you, and then if there's any monies that the county's owed, they would take a percentage of that. So it's not a fixed amount. It would be 22% of whatever their findings are. Number 11 is contract award with Eastern Armor Services for various armored car service pickups. This is for any revenue generating facility within the park system, such as the zoo, environmental center, golf. And lastly, number 52 is the contract for our summer concert series this year, which include, as you know, Brookdale Park and all of the local parks throughout the park system.
Freeholders, questions or comments? We got Freeholder Cooper, Vice President Richardson, and Freeholder Cooper.
Through you, Mr. President, this actually has nothing to do with any of these agenda items, but since Mr. Zates is here, there are some pictures going around of Weekway Park fence. I don't know if you've seen them. They're all over Facebook where they're doing a new fence, and they've attached the new fences to old posts, and the posts are so rickety and corroded down at the bottom, which makes no sense. So I sent the pictures were sent to Dan Salvante. I just want to know where we are with that. But this type of behavior is really unacceptable.
Through you, Mr. President, we'll have to get back to you. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that, but we will get back to you.
I can speak to that, Mr. Vice President. We are actually rehabilitating some of the older fencing, and so that fencing was taken away and is now being worked on. And so that's part of what you're seeing is some of that rehabilitation before it comes back to be rehabilitated.
So this is attached.
I know.
You have old fence posts that have not been rehabilitated, that the bottom of it is rusted out. So it has not been sent anywhere to be rehabilitated.
What I'm saying is that we're in the process of doing that now.
So why would they attach new fence posts to it?
It will be it'll be when the new fencing comes back, other parts of it that are not there will be brought back, that it will be rehabilitated. The posts will be done the same way, and then keep going down the street.
So then they gotta take all of the new pieces that they attach to it and take it back apart?
No, just the,
Trust me.
I
I'll
know
show
what
you
you're
the
saying.
pictures, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
I know, we spoke to Mr. Derricotti, who's responsible for that project. We'll get back to you on that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Fielder Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is for resolution number 10. You selected a vendor. Why isn't there an hourly rate set to it now? Like, when will the hourly rate for this be determined?
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. Through you, Mr. President, the way this particular contract works is that the company goes out and looks through the various bills or what have you, rent payments, and then any revenue that's due the county, they would take a percentage of that. So it's not a specific hourly rate.
So what's the percentage of revenue that they would get?
It's 22% of whatever revenue would be due for that particular utility. So just for example, if the county was due $100 for something, they would get $22 of that 100.
So, Freeholder, if they don't get any savings for us, they don't make any money.
Success-based.
Okay. Now, within this, it says that, there's a reference in it that says a contract will come back before the board for approval. What is that reference to? Like, what are we voting on today then?
I'm not sure.
Is to approve them.
Thank you.
I'm not sure.
Freeholder, can you just tell me what you're reading from? So maybe that's part of the RFP.
I don't need my glasses to read. Give me 1 second.
I do.
Thank you. It looks like a decision memo, and under the bullet that says fiscal impact, it says if a vendor is chosen for a contract, that contract must be approved by the BOC. So this is the contract that we're voting on today, right?
Julius Coltree, purchasing agent. That's exactly what we're doing today. When this went up, they also reviewed it, and as it says, as now, the Board of Chosen is approving the list of qualified vendors. There may have been more than one particular vendor. This is almost a catch-all in our normal reports. If a vendor is chosen, and it was chosen, which is Troy and Banks.
Okay, thank you.
Freeholders, additional questions? Just on resolution number 52, is the vendor here tonight?
Mr. President, the vendor is in the target age group of people who are affected by the virus, as well as having some underlying health conditions, so we thought it was prudent not to have the individual here.
Fair enough. Just a question, and this is a new question, and I'm going to put it on the record tonight. Did not ask it during the leadership meeting, so we'll apologize for not getting this earlier, but I have to put it on the record now. This contract utilizes money to pay for the actual acts themselves, correct? That meaning LaGuardia books these bands that appear. Is there, we have a large festival that's also seeking funding, or potentially from the county. Is all this already accounted for? Meaning the $200,000 is that already accounted for the calendar year? The question I'm getting at is, we have many worthwhile, obviously, festivals and entertainment opportunities in the county, but we've had a particularly large entity come to us that's putting on a festival for free for over 15,000 people and has now become a preeminent event for the county that definitely needs some help with funding, and wanted to know if there's possibilities to talk about money from within this 200,000 to maybe include that event in our package of events.
Joshua Zates, Essex County Parks. To piggyback on that, so it's over $200,000 contract. Of that, 300 is fixed. That's for the set-aside programs that are, the summer concerts or what have you. There's a $55,000 as-needed allowance that we included for additional programs and some other such things.
Okay. So I'm going to ask, through you, Mr. Jackson, if we could, before any decisions are made on that, can you confer with my office about the Jazz Festival and see what kind of possibilities there are for that particular pot of money to maybe be utilized in support of the Montclair Jazz Festival?
Certainly, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Excuse me, thank you.
Freeholder Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just another follow-up question for item 10. If there are savings that's realized, will that be presented to the board so that we'll know that the company was effective in their job?
We certainly can provide that, yes.
Thank you.
Vice President Richardson.
To you, Mr. President, this is another question that I have that has nothing to do with this particular item. I should have asked it previously when Ms. Hartwick was up there. But how was the headquarters picked for the first tee to go to Hendricks when it originated in Weequahic Park? And who decided that it goes to Hendricks and not in Weequahic Park? How was that decision made?
Good evening, Freeholder Kate Hartwig. That decision was determined by the First Tee program, and I think that much of that decision is based on the fact that this will be a new building that will be customized specific to their needs. And it's our hope that the headquarters will relocate there. Right now, I believe they're based out of a New York location.
Thank you.
Okay, Freeholders, do I have a mover and a second for 8 through 11 and number 52? Moved by Freeholder Siebold.
Second.
Second by Vice President Richardson. That's 8 through 11 and number 52, Madam Clerk. Roll call, please.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham. Yes. Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Pomares, absent Freeholder Mercado, absent Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebold. Yes. Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, moving to number 12 through 16 in Public Works.
Mr. Antonio is here to address these items.
Good evening.
Good evening.
David Antonio, Department of Public Works. Item number 12 is Department of Public Works, Division of Environmental Services, a contract to award to Helicopters Applicators, Inc., the sole responsive and responsible bidder to provide mosquito surveillance and control aircraft rental services. This is going to be a 12-month contract, not to exceed $150,000. Historically, the Department of Mosquito Control, also known as Environmental Services, flies about 4 times a year a helicopter to do aerial spraying over the Passaic River Basin to drop granulated larvicide. However, this is going to be the first year that the county is going to have to go out there and get the helicopter services on their own. The DEP is no longer going to be funding this. The company, Helicopter Applicators, Inc., is out of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and they were the sole responsive bidder. Any questions?
Let's just keep going through. Just keep going.
Okay. Item number 13, Department of Public Works, Division of Engineering, Professional Services, agreement to provide engineering, design, and construction inspection services for minor bridge replacement to the 2 recommended vendors for a project of 12-month contracts at an amount cumulatively not to exceed $760,000. This is a one RFP, 2 projects. The first one would be to French and Parello to design the bridge improvements at Marion Avenue in Milburn, the Freeman Street Bridge over Fullerton's Brook in Roseland, the Mitchell Street over the east branch of the Rollway River in Orange, and the Locust Street over Lloyd Brook in Bloomfield. We do have a gentleman from French and Perello here, if the board wishes, to introduce themselves and perhaps go into some detail as to the bridge projects. The second project would be for Matt McDonald, another 12-month contract for $219,000 to design the Lakeside Avenue culvert over Whitman Brook. Both of these projects, the construction funding has already been authorized, and the two vendors are here today. I would like to first bring up Franklin Perello, item number 1. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Bill Piontek. I'm chief engineer with French and Perello. I have 42 years of experience in bridges. And I would be the project manager of the project.
And I'm Mike Piga, French and Perello also, and I'm a landscape architect. I've been a landscape architect for the last 21 years, and I've worked on multiple projects up in Essex County, and I'll be working with Bill.
From Matt McDonald, we have Mr. Gerard Croner.
Good evening, Gerard Croner, Senior Associate at Mott McDonald. We'll be handling the Project 2 from the RFP, which is the Lakeside Avenue Culvert in West Orange. We've done several projects similar to this for Essex County over the past many years. I've been working for Mott McDonald for 39 years and worked many projects for the county.
Item number 14, Department of Public Works, Division of Engineering. This is an agreement modification, number 1, to the project called 9 Intersections, various locations in Essex County. This agreement between the county and the funding agency will provide an additional $1,147,000 to construct intersection improvements at the 9 listed locations. This will bring the total pot of money available to construct these improvements to $5,054,000. Item number 15. This is Department of Public Works, Division of Engineering, an agreement modification number 1 for the project titled Main Street and Scotland Road Intersections. This is in the city of Orange. Again, additional funding will be made available. This will be an additional $105,000, bringing the total funding available to this intersection improvement to $818,624. And item number 16 is the Department of Public Works, Division of Fleet Management. This is a contract award to Jesco Inc. to provide a new John Deere front-end loader. This is a 3-yard front-end loader. This heavy machine will be used to replace our aging John Deere, which is a heavy piece of equipment that we use on a daily basis at our Roads and Bridges facility.
Okay, Mr. Prodecchio.
Mr. Antonio, it's a question on number 13, the bridge projects. These bridges have already been determined to be in need of replacement?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what is the, obviously they're different bridges, what's the approximate timetable, assuming obviously they'll be closed while they're being replaced? How long does that project take that they'll be?
So right now we're designing the bridge improvement. However, this gentleman can answer that question for you as to how long the anticipated closure could be.
Yeah, we'll take 12.
Name for the record, please.
Oh, okay. Bill Piontek with French and Perello. The design would take about 12 months for the 4 bridges and 8-month construction time.
Thank you.
Gerard Croner from Mott McDonald for the Lakeside Avenue culvert, the Project 2, and from the RFP. The design will similarly take about 12 months for the design phase of the project. The construction being just one culvert will probably take about 3 months.
And I'm sorry, just to identify which bridge you're working on, the 3 months?
The RFP had 2 projects within it. One was 4 culverts, one was a single culvert. I'm working on project 2, which is the Lakeside Avenue culvert in West Orange.
Thank you.
State your name again.
David Antoni, Department of Public Works.
Fielder Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. What is the timeline for the Main Street and Scotland Road intersection project?
At this point, once we execute the contract with the DOT, we already have a contractor on board, and we're looking to get this project underway ASAP in the spring, weather permitting.
So you're gonna go out to bid for it this spring?
The project already was advertised. That's how come we know that we need additional funding. But we're very anxious to get this project started.
What is the additional funding for? Were you short before?
So the grant amount perhaps doesn't, the grant amount may say $500,000. However, when you put the project in the street, there's market values that change, they go up and down. So the lowest bidder can actually be over $100,000 more than we had available. However, we were able to secure that additional funding.
Thank you.
Additional questions or comments, Freeholders?
Motion.
No more questions.
McInerney?
I just have one. On the helicopter contract, what's the unit cost? It's $150,000 not to exceed, but what's the unit cost?
So there's 2 kind of helicopters. There's one that's used for surveillance that looks like a regular helicopter. It's another helicopter that actually has the payload capacity to go up in the air and actually spread this granulated larvicide. So if you don't have it, let me share that with you. There's 2 unit prices. One is for the first category, one's for the second category. And just bear with me 1 second. The heavier payload delivery helicopter is $3,075 per hour. That is the helicopter and the pilot. As has been the practice historically, the county provides the actual larvicide and the labor to load up the helicopters. The surveillance aircraft, which is the one used to fly over the basin and identify hotspots for the biologists to attack, that one's about $2,750 per hour.
So did we go through that? Is this the first year we had that contract?
This is the first year we're actually contracting on our own. Like I said, historically, this was a service provided by the state.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President?
Freeholder Johnson.
To you, Mr. President. When they're doing the spraying,
yes, sir,
of the mosquito spray, will they be notifying the people of that area where they're going to be spraying at different parks? Because I'm quite sure you're going to be doing it.
That's a great question. Correct. Our staff biologist, the director of environmental affairs, they have protocols in place for notifications. They let the community know that these are not strange aircraft hanging around. They let the community understand what the aircraft is emitting onto the basin, what it is. So yes, we have a whole protocol set in place for public notification.
Are they doing this at night while
the
park is closed, or are they doing it while the park is closed?
It's the river itself, on the Passaic River, between, let's say, Fairfield and other counties. They do it during the daytime. The pilot needs to see where it is that he's flying over.
Okay.
His police pattern. But so it's a daytime operation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fielder Siebold.
Thank you. A couple of questions. First of all, is there any reason why the state isn't paying for it this year? I know it's the first time, but I'm wondering what happened they're not paying.
We were not given much explanation, just that it's a budgetary decision that was made. However, we have open channels of communication with the state to see if the funding could be reinstated perhaps, or perhaps help us somewhat with this lift. But we have no definitive answer as to why that is the case.
So you can't answer that. And in terms of letting us know, I live not far from the Passaic River, and I know that every time the helicopter is going to be flying, we're all told when it's going to be in operation. So we know about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Fielder Siebold, second by Fielder Cooper. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebold.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President
12 through
Richardson.
16 for the record.
Yes.
12 through 16 for the record.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomaris, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham. Yes. Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving to resolutions number 17 through 19.
Mr. President, Mr. Serio, Director Serio is here to address these items.
Good evening, Freeholders. George Serio, Division Director, Division of Housing and Community Development. The first item we're presenting for approval tonight is a loan through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development's Home Investment Partnership Program. This is a new project that we're presenting to this board. Previously, we presented a plan with activities identified within that plan. The home program is unique in that it's the last source of financing in a project. Typically, the home program does not provide 100% financing. So this project would be provided $100,000 along with other financing from the state, HMFA, and as well as Department of Developmental Disabilities. It's a rehabilitation of it's a currently vacant group home. This, once completed, will allow 5 adults with developmental disabilities to move into a safe sanitary living environment. We will deed restrict the property as required with the home program, and this project has met all the HUD requirements for the division to enter into such an agreement. I'll entertain any questions regarding that.
Mr. Parlavecchio.
Mr. Serio, is this loan repaid or is it a forgivable loan?
It would be forgiven if the period of affordability is met. In this case, the period of affordability is 15 years. But if they do decide to sell before that time, the full amount would be repaid back and will be used for another eligible activity.
Thank you.
Ms. McInerney?
I don't have any questions on that.
Freeholders on resolution number 17. Questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Moved by Freeholder Cooper, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomaris, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
George Serio, once again, Division of Housing and Community Development. The next item on the agenda is the Emergency Solutions Grant Program. These are extensions of subrecipient agreements that expired on December 31st. The matrix lists 6 agencies that have been previously entered into agreement to provide various services for the homeless. I can report that 5 of the 6, we have vouchers fully expending these dollars. However, the grant period or the agreement period ran out, and that's why we're back here tonight to seek an extension retroactive to January 1st, so we could pay out on those 5. The 6th is near completion and will be completed by the end of May.
Okay. Let's take number 18.
Once
Excuse me,
again,
number 19.
George Serio, number 19 from the Division of Housing and Community Development. Number 19 are also extensions through the Community Development Block Grant Program. Matrix has been attached. These are a variety of municipal projects that were previously approved. Once again, these subrecipient agreements expired on December 31st. They are all construction related. We received letters from each township and one agency that's included on this matrix requesting extensions, and we are seeking to extend these contracts so we can pay out and complete them and therefore meet the obligations of the Community Development Block Grant Program.
Mr. Parlavecchio?
No questions.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders, 18 and 19. Do I have a mover?
Move it.
Moved by Vice President Richardson, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomaris, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, moving to resolution number 20. Read it to the record at a later time.
Deputy Director Saunders is here, and I believe Warden Barcliffe as well are here to address this item.
Good afternoon, Gina Saunders, Superintendent of the County Detention Center. A shared service agreement for juvenile crisis shelter service with the County of Passaic for 2019, amount not to exceed $265,000. Essex County shares not to exceed $132,500.
Okay, Mr. Parlavecchio.
No questions right now.
Mr. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders. Freeholder Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. How does this work exactly? Is between two different counties?
Gina Saunders, juvenile detention, yes.
So what do? We house youth for them and they pay us a daily rate?
Well, no, we house them at the shelter and we just pay half. We have a set amount of beds, which is 3, and they pay for half and we pay for half. That's the shared agreement.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Additional questions, Freeholders? A motion?
Motion.
Moved by Freeholder Cooper, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson, absent. Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
So, and Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Resolution number 21, which you can read into the record at a later time.
Mr. President,
Yep.
Julius Coultry, Deputy Administrator, Purchasing Agent. This is a extension for 2 years. It's a revenue-generated contract for $25,001 for DE&P Technical Services. We have about 9 ATM machines throughout the county, and they are not allowed to charge more than $3 per service charge.
Okay. Mr. Parlavecchio?
No questions.
Ms. McInerney?
No questions.
Freeholders? Do I have a motion? Number 21. Moved by Freeholder Johnson, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. We're going to take resolutions 21 through 51 and number 55.
There's actually a couple of that have been added on there,
Yeah.
Mr. President.
Yeah, no, we have 53.
57.
We have 53 and 54. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, to the freeholder resolutions.
see. Okay.
A few were added on since I did this, so
And we have
it'd be 22 through 51,
Yep.
and then 55 through 57.
Okay. Do I have a mover?
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Freeholder Cooper, second by Vice President Richardson. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares, absent. Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, moving to resolution 53 and 54. Mr. Jackson.
Mr. President, Superintendent Baugh is here to address these items.
Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Baugh, Superintendent of Elections, Commissioner of Registration for the county. The 2 resolutions that are before the board are for extensions of the moving contracts for the movers who move the voting machines to get them to the polling places and get other election materials distributed throughout the county. The need for the extension is to ensure that we have movers in place to take care of moving these items for the upcoming elections for 2020.
Mr. Parlavecchio.
This is for both 53 and 54?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is there an RFP or a bid that's out now or planning to go out? Mr.
Julius Coultry, Deputy County Administrator. Mr. President, both of these vendors are minority vendors, and one has already been certified, so we can do a set-aside program as we did with this particular contract in the past. We'd like to do that again, so that's one of the reasons we're asking for an extension on this, to make sure they get their paperwork back in from the state.
Thank you.
Okay. 53 and 54, the same, I'm sorry, are they the same item? Or 54 set, you were asking 50?
I think it's just two different companies, right?
Two different companies for two zones, they're two zones.
Okay, two different companies for the same thing, okay.
But for two different zones of the county.
Okay.
Yeah, same
got it.
service, though.
Same service, okay.
Mr. President.
Vice President Richard, then Freeholder Seabold.
No, you go ahead.
Thank you. Superintendent, I was told we're not going to have the new machines for this election because of the coronavirus and the material coming from China. Will these machines, will our old machines be used and moved by the companies?
Edna Ball, Superintendent of Elections. Through you, Mr. Chair, there will be a partial rollout of the new machines for the upcoming elections, and our existing machines will also be used.
Where will the new machines be used? I was told they weren't being used for the Board of Education, and they wouldn't be used in the May election and also the June election. But are you saying some of them will be used in the June election?
Mr. Edna Ball, Superintendent of Elections. Through you, Mr. Chair, they will be used in specified polling districts in all three of the upcoming elections. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The new machines. The old machines will also be used for the rest of the county for those three elections.
So all three elections will be both new machines and old machines?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know where, or we'll find that out?
I should know that off the top of my head, Freeholder. There will be a polling place in each of the 5 wards of Newark and one in Irvington, and then each of the municipalities that are having municipal elections, there'll be one polling place in each of those municipalities. And then those same polling places will also have the new machines in the June election.
And that will be Newark and Irvington, is that what you're saying?
Newark and Irvington for the school board. Irvington, Montclair, Belleville, Nutley.
That's it.
I
Just the
can't
4.
remember the fifth
All
count.
the districts or some of the districts?
In single polling places.
One district,
One polling place.
one polling place.
Place may have more than one district, but one polling place.
Okay, but one polling place in each of those locations?
Correct.
Not the whole town?
Correct.
I understand, thank you. But then we can count on them, hopefully, for the November election.
Assuming that we can get the materials shipped, yes.
All right, thank you.
Vice President Richard.
Through you, Mr. President. So I just need some clarification. Mr. Coulter, you said that this, one of them is a certified minority contractor?
Yes, sir.
But you're waiting for them to get their paperwork back from the state?
One I received, and I don't know which vendor it is, got their paperwork back already with their certification number. The other one has applied. They sent me a copy of what they applied, and then they're waiting for our certification to come back.
So are these vendors Essex County? Where are their business located, do you know?
Mr. Chair, Edna Ball, Superintendent of Elections, to you, Mr. Chair. Main Street Movers actually has got their certificate. That's the one we've received. They are located and based in Irvington. The other shipper, Best Shipping Ever, is the pending certificate, and they are located in Hackensack.
Okay, so my second question is, so we've had these discussions in here about set-asides. And on the one hand, you guys say that you can't do set-asides. Now you're telling me because they have minority certification that there is a set-aside.
Correct.
So I'm conflicted in terms of, sometimes you say we can and sometimes you say we can't. So could you explain the difference, why you can do it here and other times you can't?
What happens is, according to law, you have to have 2 certified vendors to go out for bid or for an RFP to be certified by the state to put that out for advertisement. If you don't have them, then you can't restrict only either veterans, minority, or women-owned businesses to apply. In this particular case, when we advertise for this particular service, we will guarantee them that we have 2 bona fide and certified vendors
So
for
I'm not
this
just
service.
talking about for the moving of machines. I'm talking about when it comes to minority contractors, period.
So
Right.
what happens is the Office of Small Business will then circulate or look for any opportunity to say whatever it may be, whether it's construction or whatever, and they have to have 2 certified vendors to address that issue.
Can you help me here? So when we have our affirmative action meetings and we talk about set-asides, we're told that you can't really do set-asides, right? Even with the, what we have on the books that past President Timberlake put on the books, we're told that you can't really do set-asides. Well,
No.
you're telling me we can. So
I'm
I'm
telling
confused.
you, local public contract law allows us to do set-asides as long as we have the qualified vendors with a state certification or any governmental certification, whether it's the Port Authority. So if we were looking for janitorial service and we have 2 minorities that are certified by a governmental agency, we are allowed to go out for that particular service.
And you could just set it aside for a minority contract.
Correct.
Right. Mr. President, through you, yeah, I think the distinction, I don't recall them saying that we cannot do set aside. There was all the procedural issues. I think they have procedural problems in making a set aside come to fruition. But I don't think the statement was that we couldn't do set aside. But what we were trying to get them to do is explain why they were procedural hurdles. Are now I guess the argument is that there were an inability to get the 2 qualified minorities. So I guess my understanding is moving forward that there will be a greater effort to get 2 qualified minorities.
And that is the Office of Small Business. They are out soliciting various vendors, whatever it may be. For instance, in Weequahic Park, this is not even a set-aside. We have a very difficult time, and we haven't gotten it for the last few years, vendors to sell ice cream. We have a tough time to find vendors who want to work for, let's say, our particular golf courses being the concessions.
Yeah, but you got hundreds of, with the small minority business, you have hundreds of people who they say they've certified in construction, but they don't get any work with the county. And they have more than 2 certified construction contractors, minorities, who are certified through the small business, but they're not getting any work. So never mind the ice cream truck. We're talking about, that's
Right, I
those are
understand.
peanuts. We're talking about where the real contracts are. So that's what I'm talking about here, not an ice cream truck.
What happens is, if there is a project that has to go out, small business, the process is small business identifies them, they bring it to the administration says, yes, we have 2 vendors who are qualified to go out.
So in
to
those
do this.
instances, the work can be set aside for them. But it
That's what-
hasn't happened. That's the issue. It hasn't happened. I'm just, for you, Mr. President, I'm glad it's on the record. Because going forward, and I make sure that they get vetted and they get an opportunity. You said you only need 2 qualified, and then you can set aside. So I want to make sure, so that office should be doing a better job. Thank you. But they haven't done any, 0. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, I too share some of Vice President Richardson's frustration because, and I'm sorry, in the meetings that I sat in, it was given the impression that we could not do it. And I think most of the time I'm a fairly intelligent person, but that was the sentiment that was painted to us in the committee meetings. So I think what would be helpful is, can the director of the small business office scribe what the process is to identify the process that the companies need to go through in order to get the certification? And then who is responsible for qualifying the vendors? Did you use that term a couple times?
The qualification usually comes from the state of New Jersey's Department of Community Affairs. There is a regular certification with a number. That is the state's one. But however, if someone brought us something from the Port Authority or another governmental agency and says, yes, we're certified, here's my documentation, then they're able to apply.
So then why is this so difficult?
I don't know. I don't run small business.
I mean, I'm sorry.
I'm with you. I'm sharing your frustration, especially the last couple of months. We've awarded a lot of contracts here, right? And the one that sticks out for me is the consultant groups that we awarded for insurance services. You have a plethora of firms that we give all this money to, and then the long, I'm gonna say, minority-looking firm that was the insurance broker, the contract that they got was a mere like $30,000, $40,000, and everybody else, it was like, you know, 6 digits. So, and I couldn't understand how did that happen. And from going through the committee meetings, that was my takeaway, that we couldn't do some of the things that I know Vice President Richardson was asking for. So I too am surprised to hear this tonight about the set aside. But just switching gears, because I don't want to get on my soapbox. Going back to the superintendent of elections, how was it determined that, let me make sure I heard you correctly, that in the next series of upcoming elections, one polling location within a municipality is going to get the new machines, either 1 or 2 machines, and then the rest of the locations are going to have the old machines?
Mr. President, and the boss, Superintendent of Elections, through you, Mr. Chair. The decision with respect to the polling places was made based on the fact that we learned with respect to the impact of the coronavirus that we were not going to be able to get the machines that we thought we were. So in an exercise of caution, we decided to do a partial rollback. And we decided that we would pick one polling place in, excuse me, in each ward of Newark, one in Irvington, and then one in each of the municipalities that are having a municipal election, and use those same polling places in June in order to start a partial rollout.
So only Irvington, Newark, and was the third town, those are the only towns that are going to get to experience the new voting machines?
Well, in the school board, there are only 2 municipalities participating, Newark and Irvington. In the municipal, there are 5 municipalities.
I got that part. I'm talking about the June part.
In June, those same polling places from the school board and from the municipal will be using the machines in June. And then we are expecting that we will be able to get machines in that the coronavirus will allow us and we'll be able to ship, or our company will be able to ship, and that we will be able to roll out new machines for the entire county in November. We're using in June the same towns that had polling places in the municipal and the school board election. Those same polling places will be using them in June.
How many machines will you have available? Because I recall when we voted on this, you said that the vendor had 200 machines on loan that you had available. Are you using those 200 machines, or is it less?
We will be using some portion of the 200 machines that we received.
So then the determination was based upon the school board election and the municipal elections is how the new machines are going to those towns only.
The decision was made to use one polling place in those towns only for these first 3 elections.
So going back to the transportation contract with these two vendors here, you're using them for the elections that's happening now in May, April, and June. What about November? Will we have to revisit this topic in November for them?
We anticipate that by November, we will have awarded a contract for an extended period to vendors that will participate, that will respond to the bid package that will be put out.
Or do you envision doing a whole set aside a program again for them in November, or are you gonna open it up to everybody?
Mr. President, Julius Coltree, Director of Purchasing, what we will be doing is, in the next few months, once we get 2 certified vendors, we will then put this out as a set-aside again. That's the reason we're looking for the extension right now.
Thank you.
Vice President Richardson.
Through you, Mr. President, you'll be looking for an extension for what period of time? For how long?
I think it's 3 months to June 27th.
I get now, but you're waiting for the other vendor, the second vendor, to get their certification.
Correct.
Certification to come back. Then you're going to do another extension.
No, we're going out
it's
for,
going out for bid.
bid, yes.
Thanks.
If I may, Mr. President, through you, just a point of clarification that through the set-aside ordinance that the county adopted, we actually paid for the state certification as well. So that's available to vendors that want to get certified.
So it's already available to them, but just none of them have taken advantage of it?
I'm not sure why it hasn't been taken advantage, but we do
They
pay for
didn't
that
know
service.
about it.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, Mr. Vice President, but a number of firms have taken up the $100 to apply. So Mr. Opariki could give you the exact number, but I think it's in hundreds of firms that have taken advantage of the $100 offer.
How many of them have gotten work?
I
How many
can't-
jobs or contracts have been set aside for them?
That I can't answer that. You'd have to.
You get that information?
Yeah, when
We're meeting on the 24th.
Yes, yes.
So please bring that information when you come. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson, could we have submitted just the, in writing to the clerk, whoever the appropriate person is, the details that were just outlined for what we're now doing based on potential delivery issues?
Yes.
Yes, I just think I'm even a little confused hearing it, and I don't even want to run through it again right now. Just send it to me in writing, please, on what we're exactly doing. Thank you.
Yes. And if I may just, as an editorial comment, Mr. President, one of the reasons that we're going through this is because the administration and the board made a commitment to the county and to our voters to have new machines, paper trail machines, and the thinking was that if we just decided to do nothing, that it would really indicate that perhaps we're not committed to this new type of technology for the upcoming machines. So we felt that this was a way of, one, experimenting and trying it out, but also sending the message to our voters that we are very serious and intent upon making this happen. But because of an act of God, we weren't able to get the machines. But this will, I think, at least signal to our voters that we are moving in this direction. As soon as we can get it done, we will get it fully implemented.
Okay, could not agree more. And I think I've asked the clerk from, again, other constituents and groups that have reached out to coordinate with the respective offices, about how they can be helpful to be ambassadors for what we are doing. So, because there are quite a few people who are looking to assist in helping to spread the word about how we're approaching this issue. Okay. Additional questions on 53 or 54? Have a motion?
Motion, second.
Moved by Freeholder Cooper, second by Freeholder Graham. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Freeholder Cooper.
Yes.
Freeholder Graham.
Yes.
Freeholder Johnson.
Yes.
Freeholder Luciano.
Yes.
Freeholder Mercado, absent. Freeholder Pomares, absent. Freeholder Vice President Richardson.
Yes.
Freeholder Siebel.
Yes.
Freeholder President Gill.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Freeholders, have any reports of any board committees, legislative reports, written communication, unfinished business, new business. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's go to public comment. If there's any member of the public who would like to comment on any matter, please come to the microphone and state your name, address, and affiliation for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that and indicate that there's no one wishing to speak at this time. Freeholder comment session. Vice President Richardson.
To you, Mr. President, a question. Upon arriving to the building this evening, I was told that the process and policy has changed for freeholders, or anyone with a green badge is now subject to being searched, and metal detectors, including the freeholders. It wasn't just me. All of the freeholders, if you have a green badge, you are now subject to go through the metal detector and to be searched. All right, that's what the sheriff officer told us tonight, coming in the building. So I want to know, when did it change, who gave the directive, and what's going on?
Mr. Vice President, we'd have to ask the Sheriff's Department. I have no idea at all what you, first time I'm hearing this. We'll investigate.
If I could just
Not
add,
sure. Non-law enforcement.
it was a new sheriff's officer who was at the door.
He's not new. He's not a new sheriff's officer.
I didn't say he's a new sheriff's officer, but I don't remember him ever being at the door. And I think he wasn't familiar with the
But they have
procedure.
different colors, so I think
But
law
I'm-
enforcement might.
We'll find out.
You'll see him down there sometimes in the daytime. Right, he's been down there, so he's not new.
You want to get one? You have to go.
It's easy. They just make an appointment at the sheriff's office.
The one that says freeholder, it has a green badge. He said, I'm sorry, Mr. President, he said explicitly, if you have a blue badge, which I've never seen, I don't know who has a blue badge.
Law enforcement.
You have a blue badge, then you have carte blanche. You could come
I'm sorry,
in.
Mr. Vice President, are you referring to the identifications that were?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
He said if you have a green badge, you have to go through the metal detector and you're subject to a search. I was with 2 other freeholders, and I talked to Freeholder Luciano. He said he was subjected to the same thing tonight.
Search in
by this, by this sheriff.
Search in
He waived the wine, yeah.
He did all that, went through freeholders' bags, everything.
Yes. Yeah, went through the metal detector and he.
But I understand, maybe he put me through the metal detector, but he also,
Yeah, he said it was the new group.
He said that's what he said.
I went through the metal detector, but I didn't have a warrant.
So when are we subjected to going through the metal detector and subject to search?
Yeah.
When did the policy change?
Agreed.
That's my question.
Okay,
And if it changed, why weren't we informed?
fair enough. So we'll wait for a response from the sheriff. Any additional questions? Freeholder Cooper? Freeholder comments, I'm sorry.
I am a little disappointed at the way the new machines are being rolled out, the voting machines. I understand that the coronavirus has impacted a lot of the way that we do business here. But I would have expected for a machine, one new machine, to be put in every municipality, especially when the presentation was made that the vendor had given us 200 machines to use. And by my count, the number of municipalities that we have, we could have put at least one new machine in every municipality. Failure to do that means that some municipalities are going to be behind. They will not have the opportunity to experience what the new machines look like. I think we all have been talking about these new machines, and I know the communities that I represent are very disappointed to know that those new machines are not going to be here in a municipal election, and now to have to go back and re-clean up that message now and say, oh, yeah, some new machines are going to be in some towns, they just won't be in your town. And it would have been nice to know that in advance so that as I'm talking to the public about what's to come, you know, talking about the new machines coming, it would be helpful if I was armed with the information so that I would be on the same page as the administration.
I can say, Freeholder, that the information was communicated to the clerks and to the municipalities probably almost a month ago. And so the information was out there that this change was coming because, because of the virus and we couldn't get the machines. I think, candidly, I think the easy approach would have been to say, we just can't get the machines, we're just going to use the old ones. That would have been a very easy, carefree way for everybody to operate. But again, I think that would have been the wrong message to send to some of the same municipalities that you're referring to who have been pushing for the new machines, that we are at least trying to roll it out at some level. I think too that, particularly now given the circumstances where I think we may even be going to an all mail vote, it's a possibility, I think, at some point. I believe that this is a prudent approach. I understand the frustration, but I do think it's a prudent approach to roll out the machines in this way. I think during the period of time between June and November, we'll have ample opportunity for the other towns to get on board, to experiment with it, to get out there and be trained properly. I think we'll be. I think we'll be in better shape to do the job properly for everybody in November versus doing it if we get the machines in May. I'm not sure that would even be in position to do it properly. So what we don't want to have happen is for us to do a rollout and do it improperly, and then it's going to be the machine's fault, or we're going to be, that office is going to be accused of doing a less than stellar job. So I think the prudent course was to experiment on these first 3 elections, be really sharp for November, and have everybody have a good voting experience in November versus trying to rush out something in June, have it fail, or certainly not be our best foot forward, and then we've got more backstabbing, more trying to recoup our image in that regard. So it's a call, and I think, in my opinion, I think they made the right call.
Mr. Jackson, I appreciate your response, but I think you missed my point. You said that you sent out notices to all of the municipalities letting them know about the change in rolling out the machine. And respectfully, Freeholder Seabold always seems to be in the know of what's going on. And the fact that she asked the question tonight as well about who was getting the new machine told me that if she didn't know, I didn't, I was feeling like who was this communicated to?
Well, we did communicate at our last leadership meeting.
I'm sorry, I didn't attend that meeting.
But the point of leadership is to exchange ideas, and I'm not trying to throw anybody on the bus, but we did mention this at the last leadership meeting, so anybody who was there knew about it. And I presume the point of leadership is to take ideas and concepts and then it's shared with the board. Maybe I misunderstood that.
The feeling would be mutual because I didn't know. Thank you.
I knew about it only because we have a school board election and we have a municipal election April and May. So I knew that we were getting one machine, new machine, and I know exactly what location is going on. So I think it was sent to the municipalities that had these elections during this time. So that's how we do it.
Yeah. So again, where I reside, where I represent, we're having a May election where I work. But again, we had to wait for the information to come from the clerk's office to trickle down. My point is, I'm elected and I sit here. This is when the decision is being made. And I don't know if you don't work in a town, the constituents aren't getting that information. All they were getting and hearing was new voting machines. You're gonna get an education. We gotta prepare ourselves for it. And now, then you start to hear that maybe with the China stuff, the Corona stuff happening, you're not going to get the machine. So now people are anxious. Okay, then now what's going on? And I felt like I was not informed. And I'm sitting here and I'm voting on this stuff. So now when your constituents are asking you, how don't you know when you're voting on it? I feel like I have egg on my face.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Freehold, additional comments?
Oh, my birthday's next Thursday. I'm good.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yours.
Next Thursday.
So through you, Madam Clerk, that's why I requested some of what was discussed and what was put on the record tonight to be sent from Edna to the clerk, and we'll distribute it. I would finally say too, I think that which we can discuss further. We don't have to resolve tonight unless anybody wants to. Some of the issues which are presented in the leadership but aren't presented, which aren't presented with necessarily documentation, I guess might be the right, or formal documentation, and how we best figure out some other ways to disseminate information that was discussed from the leadership meetings to the rest of the board. And what we can do, Mr. Parlavecchio, use your guidance, what we can do legally in doing that. Okay. Any additional comments? Just it's a comment, and I'll follow up with you, Mr. Jackson. Just as we move through our next meeting, there'll probably be a lot of changes. So additional places being closed, and I mean, as even we sit here today, I see that there's been 3 or 4 announcements of other institutions. Has there been any guidance from either NJAC or the League of Municipalities, for that matter, about how public meetings would occur if we were no longer able to?
Can I chime in?
Yeah, meet.
It's funny you said that.
Yeah.
I sent an email to NJAC this morning about
Okay.
that, asking that exact question. And I was told it'll be raised at next Tuesday. They do a periodic meeting of all county council, county attorneys, so that'll be discussed next Tuesday. But as of now, there's not real guidance. The Open Public Meetings Act certainly doesn't have a provision for that. And in fact, what it does say is, and I was laughing about this with Courtney before, I said, all the freeholders could be out of here and remote in by phone. We could put a phone in the middle of the room, but all the members of the public would have to be here to listen to qualify, so defeating the entire purpose.
So the public can come with
the public could come and sit here and get sick, but the board could be home.
But the board
Right.
can call in?
Right, right. Because that's, yeah.
It's allowed.
Good thing, nonverbal communication is good.
You probably shouldn't have put that on the record.
But I'm just saying that you could, if, people were sick under normal circumstances.
Right, right.
So I think the point is that's another thing that will be addressed in the coming days. But my information is there is no edict, or
Yeah.
I think you might need an executive order.
When the county declares a state of emergency, does that mean that its ability?
The state or the county?
Well, we declared it a state of emergency,
Yeah.
didn't we?
We did not.
No,
Wait a minute, I thought it's emergency declaration.
Emergency.
For purchasing purposes.
No, what was the protocols that, you distributed a memo that had the protocols for the employees and can't go anywhere and all that jazz. That's an emergency. It had the, you want to clarify, it had, in the memorandum, it said emergency.
Yep.
It said I'm pretty sure it said state of emergency in the memorandum that was sent to us.
I think that memo came from civil service as part of the state's declaration of a state of emergency.
Okay, so the county has not declared a state of emergency. Okay, I'm sorry.
If I could just clarify, Courtney Gassion, Essex County Council. So, as Mr. Parlavecchio pointed out, civil service issued yesterday guidelines to all state, county, municipal entities to utilize as it impacted civil service employees. That was issued pursuant to the executive order issued by the governor's office declaring a state of emergency. So that's what encompassed that. In the memos that I referenced earlier this evening that have gone to union representatives and that will be going tomorrow to division and department directors and employees, we have adopted in sum and substance the civil service guidelines as it relates to how our employees can expect their time and attendance to be accounted for, et cetera, as we go forward in the coming weeks and days. As far as the emergency declaration, that was only for the purposes of purchasing through our purchasing department, equipment cleaning supplies, hand sanitizers, those types of things, without having to go through local public contracts law, so we could immediately order those items and get them in as quickly as possible. So that's the only thing the county executive has done as of right now.
What would trigger the county declaring a state of emergency? So the question I have is, Bergen County has done that, and we haven't. Why?
Well, Bergen County has had, first of all, as Ms. Lordo indicated earlier this evening, Essex County does not yet have any confirmed cases of the virus. Bergen County has several, as well as now a single death. So I would imagine that's what went into the Bergen County executive's decision. I don't want to speak for Mr. DiVincenzo, but I would imagine that if there is a significant number of confirmed cases in Essex, certainly a death, or if any of our facilities have been impacted, that is something he will take under consideration. But that's not a conversation we have had yet.
Okay.
But just to note what we were discussing earlier, we have begun to cancel some public events. There was a press conference scheduled for today that has been canceled. We're encouraging directors to cancel all or use alternative means for non-essential meetings, do a teleconference or
Right.
some other means. So we're trying to encourage less group gatherings at this point, and we'll continue to do that. We're already looking at the upcoming events we have in April involving the Cherry Blossom Festival, but as we get closer, we'll start making those decisions.
Got it.
And I would agree with Mr. Parlavecchio that to override the Open Public Meetings Act, we would probably need an executive order from the governor's office in order to allow that. But that's something we'll, I'm sure, discuss further on Tuesday.
Or ask for forgiveness later.
Okay. Because the concern I have is, I understand all that, but I also want to make sure that we're not sacrificing any potential available resources by not declaring. So I guess the question I really have is, why wouldn't we declare? What do we lose by declaring now, or holding back on declaring? Even in an abundance of caution. I mean, I really respect everything you just said, but it would seem to me, we have the Prudential Center in our county. We have obviously these, some of the largest institutions and employers within our county, and they're all looking for some type of guidance from us as to what to do.
So I certainly can ask Mr. Jackson to jump in on this as well. We're very well aware that if we're going to, that by declaring a state of emergency, it would enable us for certain federal funds that would assist us in financially getting through the crisis. I think that there is certainly a consideration at this point, because we do not have any confirmed cases in Essex, trying to contain an onset of panic amongst the public. That's certainly not a reason to not declare a state of emergency. But in looking what the governor has already done by declaring the state of emergency, which incorporates Essex County, I think a lot of the things that would be implicated by our county executive issuing a similar state of emergency, it's duplicative on some level, but again, because I do think it incorporates a lot of the types of things that we would have already incorporated, including what the civil service has issued, which has allowed really us to give employees additional benefits that if we were just dealing with normal sick time from work, they wouldn't be entitled to the same kind of benefits. The civil service has expanded by issuing those guidelines. So we're addressing, I think, a lot of those issues already that might not really change if we were to issue a local county executive emergency order, declaration of emergency. Okay. Robert, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think you answered it thoroughly. I would just wanted to embellish a little bit on the notion of panic.
Yep.
Because I think part of the leadership challenge is weighing being responsible, but at the same time not communicating something beyond where we are right now. And right. I think for the moment, given that we don't have any cases, and given the fact that we have put a number of things in place, I think, to protect our citizens and our workers, that it doesn't, in my opinion, it does not arise to that occasion at the moment. But again, as the county council said, the minute it does, we would act accordingly. But I do think that it communicates a sense of panic or whatever, that we're not quite, in my opinion, not quite there yet.
Okay. I would just request that if there are down goes Fraser.
We just changed. I think we have a state of emergency.
Exactly. I know. Thank you for that. Exactly. I got the allergies, unfortunately. That the leadership of the board, if there's going to be a formal discussion on that, I'd like to be. I think I can speak for the vice president. I'd like to be a part of that discussion on the front end. I don't want to be told that. If I could be as abundantly clear as possible, and so we'd like to be part of those conversations and understand the rationale before the decision's made. Tom Hanks just made public that he and his wife tested positive.
Is that right?
Yep.
Wow.
So, additional comments, Freeholders? Motion to adjourn.
Move it.